Okay, first up on our digital touchpoint checklists is our audience checklist. So right here. So your audience is about who you're targeting. Usually this is a factor of who you're targeting via ads. It's also a factor of who you're talking to via paid. It's also a factor of who you're talking to when you hit a website. So it's kind of a combination of all these different parts. So I'm going to start with the checklist, and then we're going to get into questions that go a little bit deeper into how we work through this. So the audience must be known. We need to know who we're talking to. We need to know that that audience exists. We need to know why they exist. We need to know certain parts about them that make them that audience. The reason for targeting the audience must be clear. Why are we targeting this audience? If our audience is cyclists and we sell, a water bottle, then why is our water bottle the right water bottle for a cyclist? Does it fit easily into something? Is it lightweight? What do we have about our product that's going to be a good fit for them? The audience must be backed by data. Um, I'm going to show you an example of what this means just in a second, but you can't just pick an audience to say that's totally our audience. And a lot of the times when we do this, marketers have a tendency of picking a big whiteboard and then they decide, oh, this is my persona. It's people that fill out X, Y, and Z, and they're totally into these products because of X, A, B, C. And that's not the way that this works with personas at all. Most personas actually come down to just a couple things: people that have no experience with the product before, people that have experience with a similar product before they're looking for something new, and people that have experience with a similar product before but are looking for the best rather than something new. They're looking for something that's better that they want to apply into their lives, etc. um, the audience is relevant to where they are located. What that means is, are there certain products that are going to be a better fit for people that are around certain activities? If you're in Colorado and you're an outdoor brand and you're marketing people for the outdoors, that might be a better fit than if you're marketing people for the outdoors that are in New York City or San Francisco or a big city. Like it's not the right product for that fit. The audience might be one of many. Some audiences start small and then they expand. Some people that are, runners are also trail runners, or also marathon runners, or also do triathlons, etc. So there's expansion within that market. Some people that run also run because they play sports, etc. So you can go a little bit farther than that, and there's complementary audiences that work. So if you have a product like a moisture wicking t-shirt, you could apply across people that are athletes and people that work out and people that do yoga and all these other different kind of expanded audiences. The audience might be affected by seasonality. Similarly to location, seasonality does play a role. If it's hot in a place, then your product is wool sweaters. You're probably not going to make a lot of sales. However, if you're marketing to someone in colder weathers, wool sweaters are going to be something that's better off. And do the seasons change? Are the requirements for these items, do they change? The audience will care about only certain aspects of the product. This one's super important. We try really hard to list feature, benefit, right? And we try to make it all about everything, that it can do everything. And honestly, most of the time, it's one or two features or benefits that are going to result in the most amount of sales. So rather than focus on everything, there's a hierarchy of benefits and features that exist. And specifically with our audience, we want to make sure that we're highlighting one or two main points. If we go more than one or two main points, we're going to miss out on understanding what points actually are moving the needle. And there are ways to do this with data collection, which we'll go to, and we'll set the scene a little bit more. The audience is part of a broader lifestyle trend. Also really important. Odds are when you're selling stuff, you don't sell everything or cross everything. Even Nike doesn't. Nike used to sell golf clubs. They don't sell golf clubs anymore. So they only sell apparel and footwear. So if it's part of a broader lifestyle trend, how do you fit in? How do you fit into people that are involved in activity? How do you leverage other things about that activity to draw people in terms of keeping their excitement levels up for your brand, or how you're associated with that lifestyle activity? Um, there's a whole psychology behind creating things around hobbies and interests that works out really well. And a few brands do a really good job with this. I'm going to pick on Nike again here. They have like a running app. It's actually a pretty good running app. Uh, I wear Nike shoes, but they don't care if I wear Adidas or someone else. They built a good product around running, and running is the lifestyle element of that. The audience may already own products like yours. Most of the time, the audience that you're talking to has tried a product like yours before. They're usually not newbies. You're usually not their first. Sorry, guys. It's one of those things where they know of your product or they know of products like your product or they may have been exposed to products similar to your product or there is no alternative other than what they currently have or currently use so there's no reason to switch products. Going in with this knowledge and figuring out how you differentiate across a sea of the same is super important. The audience interests can change with life events. This is one that's really interesting. As you get older, you start finding that people have kids, and then all of a sudden, what they need and require in certain products changes. None more obvious than cars. Cars tend to go to vans and SUVs depending on the number of kids that you have. Even if you think it's the most unsexy thing in the world, it's kind of the result. The two seaters kind of tend to go away, and you look for things that are easier to get car seats in and out of, transport people, sports, equipment, and everything else. So audience interest can change with life events as well, and you should recognize that if there's something that changed in terms of activity. Pandemic was a good example where people were doing stuff more at home. Because there was a life event of everyone being stuck at home, the need to exercise at home became a big thing, and devices that can make that more easy also became a big thing. So those are kind of like the checklist of things just to be aware of in the back of your mind and start to lean into figuring how these things work. And then now let's take a pause and then we'll dive into the questions here in a second. So, audience questions. What audience are we targeting? Is the audience small enough to be clearly identified? Are the traits among the audience that would allow it to be expanded? Is the audience aware of our product? Does the audience currently have a similar product? Is the audience looking to switch from their current product? These are all very important questions. And this is what we have to go through as terms of like a checklist with questions every single time we decide that we're going to create copy or creative for a specific audience. We need to know that we can clearly identify who that audience is. We need to understand the traits among that audience that would allow it to be expanded. Are we selling men's garments? Do they work for other sports? Does it work for all men? Can be used for a different use case? One of the things that comes up quite often is people buy a product and they'll start using it for one thing, but then they'll find another use case for it, and then they'll start using it for that other thing. And sometimes that other thing, even though it wasn't the intended purpose of that product, ends up being what more people end up buying it for. So just be aware of kind of what that looks like. Are there traits among the audience that would be expanded? Can you use a product in multiple formats? Does it work for multiple activities? Can you use it for a whole bunch of different things, really? Where does one item become used in multiple activities? Is the audience aware of our product? Are they aware of what we make? Are they aware of similar products like ours? Is there something new and innovative that we've designed that people aren't aware of or how to use it or don't know that it's something that can be used? And these do come out fairly often. I was seeing someone put on some goggles the other day for their kids, and instead of the little slip all the way across, it was just pink, 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 pink on both sides, and then it like got to the perfect size. So that was really cool. That was an innovative part. They might be aware of similar products like goggles. Swim goggles have existed for a long time, but in terms of the ease of putting them on and that feature, that's something that they might not have been aware of. That's a great selling point that makes it super easy for them to adjust goggles for their kids, etc. Does the audience currently have a similar product? And this is kind of what we're talking about right there. Most of the time, yes. The answer is always going to be yes, or they have something that exists for them that solves the need of what they're looking for. It's very seldom that we look for a product uh, that we know is just gonna change our minds and blow our minds. We need to know that something either exists or that there's a similar product that exists for that. I'm staring at my TV in front of me here, and we actually have like hanging guarding hooks that hold up our soundbar. Don't ask me how we came up with this as being like the way to do this, but it works and it looks pretty good and it's pretty clean. So There's going to be a product that we use for reasons that it wasn't designed for, but it's also going to be something that, is a similar product that we could apply to a different use case. Is the audience looking to switch from their current product? Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're just browsing. Sometimes we're just looking for things that are out there. Sometimes we have no intention of switching whatsoever. But we're looking to tell a story to this audience in such a narrative that forces us to think about how we can convince someone to get from that point of being aware of our product to maybe having a similar product to possibly looking to switch and providing the reasons why someone should give us a try in replacement of what they currently have. Usually it's a price justification. You have something, it doesn't cost you anything, you already own it. You need to buy something new. Why are you buying something new? How does this work out for people? Why are we targeting this audience? What about this audience makes it a good fit? What about other audience makes them not a good fit? The second question is the one that's super, super important here because it's not about what makes an audience a good fit as much as it is what makes other audiences not as good of a fit. This one's super important because as marketers, we tend to say everyone should buy our product, and that's not the truth. There's going to be a subset of every audience that's going to be a better fit for our products. Our goal as marketers is to figure out what subset of the population on that big curve of early adopters is going to be the ones that drive the quickest amount of sales and revenue. They're able to get us into the normal conversation and then lead to organic growth through that conversation. We are not going to be a product that's great for everyone all the time. It's crazy to think that that would be the case. It usually is never the case. So we need to understand, why are we targeting this audience? What about this audience makes them a good fit? How does that fit go over into other potential audiences as well? But the flip side of that is, what would make an audience not a good fit? Is it because we're targeting college kids and they have no money? Not a good fit. We make a great product for high school kids, but they don't have any money either, and you're relying on the parents in order to buy stuff. Probably not a good fit. So, in general, as marketers, we're looking for products that are easily purchasable by a demographic that has access to capital and has the ability and means to be able to purchase that, whether through their family or on their own. Do we have data to support targeting this audience? Is there concrete knowledge that we have that this audience is a good one? Is there a higher correlation between this audience and growth? So huge. A lot of people don't typically have data related to conversion rates, orders, and revenue and stuff like that. What they have is sales data relating to products that sell. And then we make the assumption that because the products sell, we have a good understanding of what people are looking for in that product and what matters based on the benefits and features that we have. I'm going to show you something that we keep track of internally that changed my mind personally about how we do marketing. So if I look at some responses from our client here, we ask multiple questions during sign up when they sign up for their discount code. And so I'm looking at answers to multiple questions. So for instance, this underwear company uses micromodal, which is a type of material that's super soft in order to make more comfortable underwear. So we asked, do you currently own micromodal underwear? No, but I'm interested is 50%. I don't know what that is 15%. So we got 64% of people that don't know what this is, and we've got roughly 35% of people that do know what it is. Now, the revenue by answer is much higher coming from people that already know what this material is. The orders by answer are roughly the same, given that they're different percentages like that. That's okay. I like that. But their conversion by answer is 40% for people that know what it is, but it drops down quite a bit here for people that don't know what it is. So when we look at it, we know the different opportunities that exist here simply because there's an educational gap. We do these for multiple questions. What style underwear do you prefer? Boxer briefs takes the lead, has the most amount of revenue, but has lower conversion rate. We were sold out for a little bit during this time period, so that would make sense on there. These two have been fully in stock though, and they've had a good conversion rate. All things considered, the conversion rate should be about equal across our audiences. But if I was looking at this, I'd say for sure revenue boxer briefs, we should be advertising boxer briefs. We should be advertising boxer briefs to people that know what micromodal is, but we also have an opportunity to teach people what micromodal is. If we look at what matters most to you in your underwear, we can see that front pouch drives the majority of revenue. Support also drives a lot of revenue. These are the top two answers here. They do have the highest amount of orders. In terms of conversion rate, front pouch is the highest. Super soft fabric is second, and support needs a little bit more education on this. So people that are answering support, we need to figure out why there's a gap in terms of their conversion rate. What can we do on our product pages, etc., to show that these underwear have a real good amount of support that they can provide as well, and lean into that narrative. So this is what data collection does and allows us to define who our audience is. Our audience is people that need a front pouch that's supportive, that are interested in boxer briefs, trunks to a lesser extent, and that know what micromodal is, but there are gaps for people that don't know what it is as well. So we're using that data to understand exactly who the audience is, and we need to have that knowledge that lets us know that they are a good audience, and that there's a correlation between that audience and growth, hence the conversion rates and the revenue that's coming in based on the answers provided. That helps us better figure out, what we need in order to understand who we're going after and who we should be marketing to. And it also will influence our next little category, which is going to be the creative that goes along with that and how we build that creative to talk to that audience directly about the stuff that matters to them. Do we ask questions to reinforce our audience beliefs? Do we connect this audience to the appropriate landing pages, etc.? Are we collecting data from signups and surveys that confirms our audience? Now, I just showed you an example of how we collect data during sign up and opt in for a discount in order to better understand who our customers are. What we're really doing, though, is in questions like this, is to understand which benefit people actually that matters actually to people. So whether it's front pouch, support waistband that doesn't flip, like that stay put, super soft fabric, easy to use fly, all these are benefits and features of our product. They're the features of our product that make a difference and matter to people in their purchase of underwear. So we're using this data to better understand you know, what types of things that we should promote on our landing pages, how we should lay out different value propositions and things like that. All of that data is collected via signups and surveys from our audience in order to better understand how those answers directly relate to revenue being driven, conversion rates by answer as well, and number of orders, so that we have a good understanding of what's driving not only orders but revenue, and also what's converting at the highest rate. So we have a good contextual relationship with the data that we're collecting. Uh, do we ask questions to reinforce our audience beliefs? Are the questions stuff that really tap into the underlying reasons that people make a purchase? If they aren't, maybe we should reconsider some of them. If they are and they help us better understand activities and things like that, it's going to help us better design a customer journey at the touch points again that we can control in order to deliver that experience necessary in order to help them be able to make a decision that hopefully is beneficial for us as well. Where does the audience live? Is it an audience regional or national? Does our audience live in cities, suburbs, or rural areas? Really important considerations here. When you start selling a specific product, where do you picture people that are owning that product? Uh, for instance, golf happens everywhere, rural, cities, suburbs, it happens everywhere. So your audience is kind of a little bit of everywhere. And you need to figure out how you can, but for golf, for instance, you would position most people on a golf course. You'd want to keep as much photography as possible relating to the activity or the lifestyle. There's people that have tried to do this to say, oh, it's on the golf course as it is at home. It doesn't really work that way. It's not probably a good way to do it. Like focus on that hobby and the niche, and people will start associating with more better. Regional or national? Is your activity something that's regionally located? Colorado, Utah, a lot of skiing. Less skiing in Florida. Less skiing in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. So know what activities and what trends and what behaviors exist and where you should be marketing to people and how that looks. There's a good way to do this. It's super easy. You can take all your orders and you can export them and then lay them out on a Google map and understand where the concentrations of your buyers are from. And then you can understand essentially what the spread looks like. we used to do this, and then we used to overlay the CPI or the consumer price index, and that's buying power over all these different regions. And then we would understand within a 35-mile radius of key points where people are and their sales are most likely to come from. So that if we were making a trip regionally or something like that, or doing a trade show, we could tell people we would be there, or we'd be more inclined to participate in activities that happened in places that were near our targeted audiences. Is our audience affected by seasonal changes? Does weather affect sales of our products? Does location combination with weather affect sales of our products? I see this a lot where people don't truly understand how seasonality can affect the sales of their products, whether it's a product that's geared towards an activity that only happens for some people 4 months out of the year because it snows all the time and it's an outdoor activity that requires sun, or it's the reverse, where it's an activity or item that requires a different type of weather. Whatever it is, just be aware of how weather and seasonality will affect your products and how it should affect your marketing too as well. You might want to save up some marketing budget during the winter, or you might want to target another hemisphere in order to maintain sales. And then you can offset that with leading into more seasonality or suggesting other activities. For instance, if you sell bathing suits and it's winter, all of your creative and all of your audience should be people that own hot tubs. Yay, you're still going to win. People are still using your stuff. But I'm yet to see a lot of bathing suit companies that focus on people in hot tubs. I usually see them focusing on people at the beach or on vacation or traveling or something like that, or swimming in a pool. So figure it out, find out if your product's affected by seasonal changes, and then work marketing backwards in order to hit an audience that would still be a good fit for you, even if seasonality plays a role in that. Why do our products matter to our audience? Is our product a need, want, or a desire? This is super important. And I'll talk a little bit about this. There's a need, want, and a desire are the three thresholds of like growing higher and higher and higher. I need transportation from point A to point B. Point A to point B is 10 miles. I can walk, I can run, I can bike, I can take a car. Do I need a car? No. I have alternative forms of transportation that will get me from point A to point B. Um, would I want a car? Yes, if it made sense and it was the quickest way of doing things, I'll get a I'll want a car to make that happen. And then it's what type of car, right? Like I can get there in a smart car that's super cheap. I can get there in a Bentley. It depends on what my budget is, right? It's the same thing with buying a car. I need a car. Okay, like what satisfies that need? The cheapest thing with four wheels that can get me from point A to point B. I want a specific car because I want horsepower and comfort and heated seats and all this other things, right? So, okay, there's a lot of things that have heated seats and horsepower and everything else. So that's a broader category of want. It's also going to cost me more money. I desire to get there in a lap of luxury. That's going to be a Bentley. So that's going to cost me a couple $100,000. Your products for your audience want to fit into the want category. You always want to be like middle. You don't want to be a need, and because people will go for the cheapest option, or for most needs, people will go for the cheapest option. It's whatever satisfies the checklist of like the must-haves, and that's it. The want allows for greater flexibility of justifying purchase of something. A desire is almost talking yourself out of purchasing that due to money constraints. So the want is kind of where you want to find yourself. Desire can also be aspirational, where if something life changing happens, that you would instantaneously, your desire would turn into a want because now it's more affordable and more in reach, so to speak. So we want to position everything around a want. And when we position things around a want, we start focusing on how we're perceived, specifically around how we can take our product and position it against other products as being something more aspirational. Um, you have a choice of underwear. You can get cheap cotton underwear, or you can buy material that's 3 times more breathable than cotton and 10 times softer than cotton, right? Like all of a sudden, it changes your perception of what an existing product was and push it into a category of something that you should aspire to want. and that you should want to upgrade something that you existingly have, or you should want to try something because now you know that there's something better available. So this is is there something that would change or cause the product to change importance? Yes, 100%. It's usually a benefit or a feature of something that they didn't know about or that they weren't aware existed or they weren't aware was an option for them. That's your biggest transfer of behavioral change. If you can move someone from a need into a want to reconsider something. Let's use the underwear example again. So for the most part, people just buy underwear because they need underwear. But if you start thinking about a product like underwear as something that you wear every single day, unlike a heavy parka coat or jacket or sweater or something else, depending on seasons, it becomes something that you should want to care about. The more you use something, the more you should care about how that product affects your life and impacts your life, whatever that is. Um, if you use something regularly, you should care about it. It's like getting a good set of knives for your kitchen if you cook every day, getting a good pan that you use every day, things like that. Anything that you're going to use a lot of the times or that you can present more of a use cases for is going to end up winning out in the end. So pay attention to that for sure. uh, about that importance and how to change that importance through creative and content and copy and things like that. What are the broader lifestyle trends across our audience? Does our audience subscribe to a broader lifestyle of activities? Can we expand or focus our audience targeting based on these lifestyle trends? The answer is yes, yes, and yes to all these guys. So when we are thinking about an audience that we want to talk to, even if we're targeting broad, the messaging that we have in that existing audience is going to be targeting a specific audience that puts us in a position for that audience to be able to relate to our messaging and our copy and our creative. And we lean hard into certain activities that embrace kind of what the brand's all about. Nike is a good example where everything they do is around sports and being active and training and things like that. Um, Different companies will ascribe to different things. There's some brands that are more on the rugged side that will talk about what activities they do with their stuff, etc. So figure out what your lifestyle looks like and then start integrating that lifestyle directly into your ad creative so that it makes sense. Like that is essentially what you're looking to drive forward and make happen, so that people can relate to that lifestyle trend. Back in the day, we used to run this when I was running marketing for LifeX, where we did a spot called LifeX Life, which was a bunch of emails, and we would get someone to submit some pictures of how they were using our lights, which were Wi-Fi controlled color changing lights. We'd ask them what hobbies they had, we asked them what they did for a living, and we asked them something that they were learning right now or focusing on as like, something they were looking to get better at. And they would provide us this information. We'd send out these emails, and these emails had no intention of selling. It was just sharing a lifestyle element of our brand. And they resulted in the most amount of revenue for our brand, other than like super, super duper sales emails. They consistently brought in a higher percentage of revenue per send than any other emails we sent out because people were looking to connect with the lifestyle where they could see themselves with our product and using our product in that way. It's really powerful and important to be able to bring your product into a lifestyle trend like that and to be able to kind of match it together. Um, it's super strong and it's something that a lot of brands do not do a good job of doing. It's usually product focused, product focused, product focused instead of lifestyle focused and bridging that gap. Does our audience already own products like ours? I'm going to try to scroll down and then I'm going to move this. All right. Do they? Do you currently own existing products? Is our audience aware of products of our product or products like it? Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they aren't aware that there's different materials that things are made out of. Sometimes companies get into trouble where they have a name for a material and they don't actually define what that material is or why it matters to you. Sometimes they come up with trendy names that don't mean anything other than to them as a creator, and they like making it a thing, even though it's not really a thing. We see that quite often with people wanting to be super creative, but creativity does not speak to the broad audience. It speaks to a narrow audience with curiosity, which sometimes works, but most of the time, just tell people exactly what it is, tell people what the breakdown is. Most commonly, I see this on products that don't list the materials and the material breakdown or construction. They won't. They'll say that it's a four-way stretch, but they won't say that it's four-way stretch in the waist as well, and that the waist expands and gives has flex in it, right? Like the most important part doesn't matter, like that sort of thing. Um, do we use terminology as something that they would recognize? Just talked about that for a second. Like sometimes we use terminology that people won't recognize. If we use terminology that people won't recognize, are we really benefiting the customer? No, we're trying to brand us the company. Unless there's an explainer video that goes along with it. And that's the next point. Is there education needed for those that don't own a product like ours? If there's a different material we're using, if there's a different formation that we're using, if there's, a different execution of something that we're using, whether that's a different traction pattern on the bottom of a shoe, whether that's a foam insole, whether that's a memory foam sole, whatever it is, whatever the feature and the benefit is that we're using, um, if that matters and how that matters, how do we display that messaging to our customers in a way that makes it approachable, that's familiar to something that they already know about, that provides a description or an analogy that's something that they can relate to? And how do we use all of these things in order to better sell our product and differentiate it from the existing products? How do life events affect this audience? Is our product dependent on life events? Can a life event change our audience? We talked about this in the very beginning, and I do believe that life events dramatically affect someone's buying capacity. Sometimes a raise gives them more capital where they can spend more money on some goods that they previously didn't spend money on. Sometimes there's the pandemic where people were stuck at home and they were willing to spend more all of a sudden because they were saving money on going out. They could spend more on individual household things, make their house more comfortable, etc. Buy a bigger TV if you're going to be stuck at home. All these little things kind of factor in. Is our product dependent on life events? Sometimes not. Sometimes you get more time because you have a better job. Sometimes you play more of an activity. Sometimes you're looking to change your ways, quit drinking, start working out. Then you're going to be more apt to buy workout equipment and other things like shoes and clothing and stuff like that. Sometimes you just need a wardrobe refresh. Sometimes you move to a new location. If I move from California to the back east and up into some parts of like Montreal, the weather's going to be a lot different. So I'm going to need to change my shoes. I'm going to need to change my apparel. I'm going to need to change my layering. I'm going to need to change a bunch of things, right? So depending on the activities that you're participating in, depending on your location, depending on all these things, these life events can drastically affect our purchasing behaviors. I think more so than most people give them credit for. So knowing our audience and understanding that our product may or may not fit into some degree of a life change or precipitated by a thought about a life change. Um, this can also happen where people have used the same thing for a lot of years, and after a certain age, you probably need to upgrade or change or not do something that you used to do. Like that also works. You can use reverse psychology on that when it comes to like age related things. For instance, you're 35 years old and you're still getting your underwear at Costco. But, that's a huge, oh, why am I doing that? Is there a better option? So there's ways to work in psychology into the overall audience in a way that calls out or questions previous behaviors, which is all you're looking to do as an advertiser. You're looking to question a previous behavior and then work your way through towards a different one. That wraps up our audience section. I hope that was helpful going over our entire checklist and then working through these questions to better understand how to dig deeper into these things. As a marketer, our goal is to get as close to our audience as possible. The big prongs to doing this are to asking critical questions to understand who our audience is, why they're our audience, where they live, what they do, what activities, etc., how to better connect with them. If we can collect data along with this that helps reinforce our beliefs or our ideas around this, it's better for us so that we can understand contextually why data points matter, and how we can build structures that lead towards revenue. Because at the end of the day, our whole job in marketing is to sell stuff and make sure that we're making profit for our company. As an overview, this is good. This is a checklist that you can use. Literally, I still use it to this day, and I made it. So it's a good refresher for everyone to make sure that they're aware of and that they know who they're targeting, why they're targeting them, and how to best create messages for them, which we're going to cover in our next session, which is our creative checklist. Thanks.